Thanks for checking out the Brad and John Show podcast. This segment of the show is brought to you by John Combest's book, Stalking, Harassment, Internet Trolling, A Guide to Recovering and Rebuilding After Online Attacks. It's a great reference if you've ever been the unfortunate target of a social media attack. It's available on Amazon. Just search John Combest. That's C-O-M-B-E-S-T, John Combest, and the book will show up in your search results. Now it's time for another segment of the Brad and John Show. Can you handle it?
I'm Egbert, the owner of this station. Check out my website at egbert.com. That's E-G-G-B-U-R-T, egbert.com. Now it's back to Brad and John. Check out their website at bjshow.co. The BJ Show? Come on, guys. Anyway, here's B and J.
I still don't understand why he's so upset about that. Anyway, this is the BJ Show, bjshow.co, just like Egbert said. You can check out our web address. And matter of fact, you know what I need to put? There's 2 new pages I need to put on our website. I need to put the glossary of terms on there, and you'll help me with that, John. And I also need to put a video page on there because as I look at the analytics of us on YouTube, the Comfy Shoes video is fastly becoming one of our most popular videos on our channel. So
nice, yeah. There's even a couple visuals I want to add to that video, Brad. Before we promote it heavily. I mean, the song carries itself. By the way, Brad, thank you pre-show. This is a little behind the scenes, but thank you for sharing the video from the woman that has Fashion Over 50, Brad. You know that's the name of her channel? Did you see that?
Right, I did, and I said that to John because she's reviewing. Matter of fact, I've got to pull some audio on that because there's some great drops in that. She's reviewing. What is she? Here, hold on a minute. I'm playing stuff left and right off of YouTube this morning.
I'll set the background for people. Brad sent me a link to a video that I opened it, and it's a woman who has a YouTube channel called Fashion Over 50. And she starts the video by talking about – the video is called her 5 favorite comfortable shoes, which I thought was just a punchline in and of itself. And, Brad, I had to turn it off after 15 seconds because she shows some really good-looking strappy shoes. You know what I'm saying? Like you could just picture them on your favorite woman or women. And then she says, but who wants to wear shoes like this once you get to be a certain age? And I was like, oh. No. So I hit the kill button at 15 seconds, Brad.
Okay, hold on a minute.
Make our feet hurt after 5 minutes of wearing them. So today, I am sharing with you my top 5 secret weapons for shoes. The most comfortable ones I've ever owned. Hey friends, it's Angela. So good to see you all again today. And if it's your first time here, welcome and thank you so much for stopping by. I know, like me, a lot of y'all out there love you some shoes. But as we look in our closet at the shoes that we own, how many could we really confess to that are really comfortable? Well, today I'm sharing with you the top 5 that I own that are the most comfortable shoes. And if you don't already own these, you may want to consider these for yourself. Guess who came down?
There you go. Okay, there you go. Her name is...
Boy, is that, first of all, a disgrace to the name Angela? Secondly, what does it say about a woman that she's prioritizing her pleasure over how she looks for her man?
No, not her pleasure, her comfort.
Yeah, that's true. Sorry, that was a Freudian slip there when I said her pleasure.
Right.
Brad, can we talk about older women for a second?
No, we can't, John. We have to talk about NPR.
Okay.
We're going to move on because you think I get sidetracked. You're the guilty party. You're the guy that gets me sidetracked all the time. Okay. Now, ever since you have listened to my show when I was on with BS with Shelley, okay, I have not necessarily, I won't use the term railed, but I have always complained about NPR and KWMU. And
give a 15-second, because most people have heard it many times, give like a 15-second overview of your main complaint.
Well, once again, it's government propaganda because on 2 levels. If you listen to KWMU here in St. Louis, the station is owned by the University of Missouri St. Louis, which is the state of Missouri. The state of Missouri is owned ultimately through the university, the curators of the University of Missouri. The state owns KWMU, KMST, KBIA, KCUR, and I think there's another one in there somewhere too.
Yep, we got it.
Okay, they own those stations. Okay, now, most of the programming comes from National Public Radio in Washington, D.C., and also in wherever that in California, which once again gets government funding through this quasi-governmental agency called the Corporation for Public Broadcasting.
That's right.
And
so it doesn't go directly to NPR. As NPR points out, taxpayer money doesn't go directly to NPR. It's put through, as the Italians would say, Brad, it takes a trip to the laundermat, gets washed, and then goes through Corporation for Public Broadcasting.
That's exactly what I was going to say. That would be like
money laundering. It's laundered through, and that way NPR can say, but we don't accept direct taxpayer money.
Right. It's essentially, it's laundered money because if you and I were in the mob and we were selling cocaine and we wanted to, somehow get that cash, into our bank account, we'd buy like a pizza place.
Yeah, or Brad's lawn mowing service.
Right. And the average, and essentially most of the guys out there who are charging $40, $50 for a lawn, we would be charging $400 for a lawn. And
so hey, once again, I sidetracked you. So get back to NPR.
Okay. I have said for years, and it's gotten worse. Now, here's the interesting part of this is when I was first going to school at SIU, the radio station, WSIE, was one of the charter stations on NPR. WSIE came on the air as an NPR affiliate. And at the time, nobody knew what the hell NPR was. And once again, they did a lot of good things back in the day. I mean, and once again, I will say that what happened was the network has been hijacked, and the whole thing that's come out is, what's this guy's name? Uri Berliner, I think is his name.
Yeah, that's right. Uri. I think it's Uri or Yuri.
Uri. Okay. He's a current employee of NPR. I'm thinking to myself, that's not
correct. Not for long.
That's not going to last long. He's going to be gone soon. And he's come out with this incredible piece, sort of behind the scenes, a peek behind the scenes, and everything I said. You've read the article, right?
You're absolutely right. And folks a good place to find it is you can go, Tony Bateo had it up too at Tony's Kansas City. He had it up, I believe it was yesterday. Yeah, Brad. I mean, it's detailed just about everything that you've kvetched about over the years.
Every single thing. I mean, to the point where he talks about the makeup of his editorial staff. And he says that the editorial staff is 87-0. 87 meaning they're Democrats who voted for Biden, and there's 0 Republicans who voted for Trump. Okay, now, once again, these are the people that are giving you the news. They have, whether it's a conscious or a subconscious bias, they have a bias that anything that Donald Trump says it's bad, he's bad orange man, anything that Joe Biden says is good. And perfect example of this is that, and I heard this yesterday on NPR, and I thought to myself, okay, here we go again. There was a press conference yesterday with Joe Biden and the premier of Japan. I don't know if you know this or not.
I didn't see it.
He was in town, okay? And Biden is once again in a rare moment when he's at a press conference, people ask questions. He's talking about how great the economy is. And he says that when he came into office, they inherited a high inflation rate, okay? Guess what? That is absolutely positively false.
Right, correct.
Because even when the economy was not doing well near the end of Donald Trump's term because of the country was shut down by the COVID thing, keep in mind the COVID thing started happening in January of 20. The election was in January of of November of 2020, and the president becomes inaugurated on the 20th of January, is that 2021?
Correct, yep.
20th of January in the year following the election. And what's interesting is sometimes people always look at this and they think, no, hold on a minute, the elections are in even years. How come is the presidential terms always show odd years? Because they don't become inaugurated until the year after. So in other words, Donald Trump's term, even though he was elected in 2016, his term was essentially 2017 to 2021, correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
Yep.
So anyway, this guy just pulls the curtain out from behind and essentially just says it's nothing but a bunch of crazy left-wing loons, I mean, that's my words, not his, who are doing the news. And I've said this all along. And like, for example, when the Hunter Biden laptop thing came out, the guy who was, and he quotes that in the article, he quotes that the head of NPR News says, essentially, Russian disinformation. There's nothing
That's
here.
right. Yep.
Now, once again, when I went through journalism school, we were taught to have this curiosity. We were taught to have curiosity that if you worked at a newspaper or at a TV station, whatever, and someone called up and said, hey, do you know that the mayor is secretly using the gas pump at the Parks and Recreation Department to fill up his car, and he's using, and that's not his.
Go check it out.
Right, this is not his person. This is not his vehicle from the that's issued to him by the city. This is his personal vehicle that he goes over to the Parks and Recreation Department and uses the gas pump, which you just put in a code and you fill up your car. Okay, there would be back in the day there would be a reporter who would maybe show up at the mayor's office and say, Mayor, we have got a call that you're using the gas pump at the Parks and Recreation Department to fuel up your vehicle. And maybe, not me, I wouldn't do that. And then the next thing, where the next stage would be? The next stage would be a reporter would stake out the gas pump.
Yeah, you'd have KMOV's Jamie Allman waiting out by the gas pump with a camera.
But nobody does that anymore. And the crazy thing, Russian disinformation, it talks about the fact that, and here's the interesting thing, he talks about the fact that Adam Schiff was on NPR 25 times talking about how Donald Trump colluded with the Russians. He colluded with the Russians. Now, the interesting thing was, I don't know if you saw this, that the Fox News Investigative Bureau, Fox Digital News Investigative Bureau did a deep dive on this, and they went back, and Uri said Adam Schiff was on NPR 25 times. Fox Digital went back and went through all the different programs from 2016 onward, and they found out, nope, that number was not right. Adam Schiff was on 32 times on NPR, and they break it down by year. 2017, Adam Schiff's on 8 times, and every time he's on, Donald Trump. And if and with the sad thing of this, he's going to be the next senator from the state of California. I'm going
let's get back to NPR for a minute. So I guess the first question is anybody surprised by this? And will anything change? Well, so, I mean, I'm not surprised by it. You're not surprised by it. But what incentive does NPR have to go from 87-0 to 84 to 3?
But see, here's the interesting thing. And you bring up an excellent point. Okay, if this were a commercial radio station, and the ratings, which are important, the ratings kept eroding and eroding and eroding. Pretty soon, the owner or the program director or the general manager would say, okay, it's time to change things. And that's one of the things that happens in the radio business.
Yeah, but they're not. But they're not.
Well, but the reason is because they don't have any pressure other than, I mean, if the donors stop giving them money because, once again, they say listener supported. That's BS. There is listener support of KWMU. The majority of the money, when you work at KWMU, like Jason Rosenbaum.
You've said this before. Your check comes from whom?
The state of Missouri.
Yeah.
And when you retire, and I don't know how it's going to be with the union. That's a different situation. But the people who have worked at NPR or at KWMU for a long time, when you retire, you get a state of Missouri pension. You're a government employee, okay? So you get your paycheck from the state of Missouri, okay? So once again, it doesn't matter if the wheels fall off because of the fact that, there's no pressure for ratings. I mean, the reason radio stations, change formats is because once upon a time, a radio station comes on and it's very popular, and let's say it was a disco station. The disco music is hot.
Right, and then when it goes away, nobody's going to listen to it, and then there go your advertisers.
The perfect example of this is every year KZK switches over to Christmas music, and they kick butt for 2 months. They switch over to Christmas music like November 1st, and they run it through the end of December. Okay, they kick butt, and they charge a premium for their advertising time between November 1st and December 31st. Obviously, that's when a lot of people are advertising because of the fact, hey, come in and buy your Christmas gifts at our store. Come in,
right, for sure.
That kind of stuff. Okay, so he points out point after point, and it's a very well, I mean, it should be. He's an editor. It's a very well-written article where essentially he's just destroying all these, and just essentially behind the scenes, and he gives statistics. He says it hasn't been like this all the time. Once again, you go back 30, 40 years, NPR, I think, did a great job. You go back now, and he starts saying this happened about 10 to 12 years ago. And he talks about how if you go back and look at the ratings in 2010, there were quite a few, that he broke it down by white educated college people and then black and Hispanics and stuff like that. And what it's turned into is NPR, the majority of their listeners now are essentially white people. And I think he says they're white people primarily centered in the coastal cities. Isn't that what he's saying?
Yeah, and overeducated.
Overeducated. And part of the reason is most of the NPR affiliates are attached to a university, like we have here in St. Louis. You look at the big NPR affiliates, WAMU in Washington, D.C. Okay, that's American University. American University.
Hey, can we talk real quick, Brad? Can we talk about your journalism degree real quick and how this applies? In defense of NPR, and maybe it's not in defense of NPR, but let's say in defense of NPR, and if we look at St. Louis Public Radio, do you think they get any objective conservative applicants or moderate? Like if you had somebody who was like, I really want to go out there and find the facts, do you think they're going to go to St. Louis Public Radio?
Well,
you get what I'm saying?
You know what I should do? I should apply over there. Wouldn't that be funny?
You'd be great. Well, first of all, it'd be hard for them to deny you because you're of age,
right?
Of a certain age. You could really lean into maybe you could get on a mobility scooter. But jokes aside, Brad, you see what I'm getting at? Like, think of the people that say,
John,
you know where I want to work? St. Louis Public Radio.
I know exactly what you're saying. I can't give you my source, but I have someone who worked there for a long time. Mm-hmm. And I asked him this question, and he said, we don't have journalists, and this is when he was still working there. He says, we don't have journalists at KWMU. We have activists. That's what he said. Now, I'm broad brushing Jason Rosenbaum because he's one of the people there.
So because he's the exception that proves the rule, Brad.
I would say he is the exception because he, to me, tries to present both sides of the story. You can't tell who he's going to vote for based on how he writes the story. I ran into him at that event in St. Charles where they were
the Freedom Caucus.
The Freedom Caucus was their coming out party, whatever you want to call it. And I'd never met him before in person. I've heard him for years, never talked to him, never did any communication with him at all. He couldn't have been more gracious to me. Talked about how he listens to you and me, and I read his story about what he did. And you said he was like a pioneer, that he was shooting video back in 2008.
06, yeah.
Yeah, I mean 2006, which is that's like a pioneer in the digital era,
Sure.
And once again, I heard his report. I listen to him on every other Friday. I try to listen to him. I think he does a very nice job. Once again, he sort of has that NPR style to him where he sounds a little bit, I guess, this is not a criticism, but he has that emotionless presentation, where he's like, hi.
Yeah, he's not trying to be animated.
Now, what I don't like when anybody just, like what I've done for the past 50 minutes, I've flamed NPR and KWMU. I don't like it when people just tear something apart. I think if they're going to tear something apart and downgrade something, they should have some kind of well, if I were in charge,
a path out,
right,
or an alternative.
Here's what I would do. Now, I've addressed that where I have decided what they need a new image. So here's what I've done. You ready, John? Listen,
I'm ready.
Listen carefully, okay?
We are National Public Radio, NPR, where the news is what we say is the news.
What do you think, John? We are. Did you hear it well?
I did, but so wait, is there more to the song, or is that just a teaser?
That would be the beginning of like a commercial. Okay, here let me do my radio thing. Okay, here this is how I would use this. Okay, here we go.
We are National Public Radio, NPR, where the news is what we say is the news.
That's right, we're NPR, and you know what? It's not news until we say it's news.
That's exactly right, Brad.
And see, that would be a commercial. I didn't fade that down in time, but essentially that would be like the intro for a commercial, And we are nationally.
You should apply to Corporation for Public Broadcasting, see if they'll give you a jingle grant, Brad.
Do you know why they won't do that?
Why's that?
Ancient Chinese secret.
That's why. Okay.
I couldn't hear it, but I bet it was great.
No, you know why?
Ancient Chinese secret.
Hold it one more time.
Ancient Chinese secret.
That's what it was.
Oh, ancient Chinese secret.
Yes, okay. As opposed to...
Charcoal best, he's a man of taste. He's got a thing for a certain type of grace. He don't care about diamonds or pearls. All he wants is a girl with comfortable shoes. He loves
women in comfortable shoes. It's so good, Brad.
If we worked at 93.3, we'd be fired by now. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely. We would have never gotten hired in the first place. It'd be like a conservative at St. Louis Public Radio, Brad.
Thanks for checking out the Brad and John Show podcast. This segment of the show is brought to you by John Combest's book, Stalking, Harassment, Internet Trolling, A Guide to Recovering and Rebuilding After Online Attacks. It's a great reference if you've ever been the unfortunate target of a social media attack. It's available on Amazon. Just search John Combest. That's Combest, John Combest, and the book will show up in your search results. Now it's time for another segment of the Brad and John Show. Can you handle it?